In this video, I'll be talking about 7 types of software testing that is good to know but better to implement. So before we go into 7 types of testing tools, the reason why we have them in the first place is to make sure that our old code, existing code, works with new code that we just wrote. But hey, if you're first time here, my name is Artem, and the whole purpose of this channel is to help beginners and juniors to succeed in the tech industry. So if you're not subscribed yet, consider doing it now. And let's get to those 7 types. So the first one on the list is unit testing. And unit test is meant to test your code itself. It's very close to your application, meaning that it's meant to test your functions, your classes, your modules, whatever it is you have the logic in your code, that's where it's going to be testing to make sure that it still works the way it's expected to work. They're very easy to implement, to work with. Sometimes if something new comes into application and you need to change it, before to update your existing code, you'll have to update your unit test first. And to that point, whenever you have a new feature to implement into your application, a good practice is to write unit test first to make sure that it can pass the existing use case before you start writing your code. Type number 2, smoke test. Smoke test just meant for a very simple thing. Can the user still log in? Can they still register it to the application? It's meant for testing out the core feature of your application. That's pretty much what a smoke test is. Type number 3, end-to-end testing. And what it means is, can the user still get to a specific point within the application flow? To give an example is simple as that, it can still be logging in into the application. But as complex, let's say, can they still proceed with the payment performance or the payment process of the application? So let's say whenever they have created specific items into their cart and they go through specific steps from, let's say, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, whatever it is that need to do in between. And can they still pay for the product that they have purchased? Sometimes what we do here is we'll write Selenium tests in order to test the specific flow, so we don't have to keep on doing this over and over again ourselves. But sometimes it can be expensive to implement it ourselves because there are a lot of use cases that needs to be done around it. If something's been updated on the UI, then we need to update Selenium scripts. So that one is just more for a specific type of purpose. Type number 4, integration testing. And the integration testing is simply as within your application, within your code base, you do have a service, you have a model. You want to make sure that they talk to each other. So if you're trying to get a specific record from a database, or create whatever it is, you're going to make sure that this type of operation is working. Type number 5, functional testing. And functional testing is more focused on business side of logic. So let's say right now a user goes into application and they're viewing their dashboard, and we want to display their information, their specific information. And that means that we need to talk to a database in order to get specific records and display it, of course. Now, it sounds very close to integration type of testing. And that's where sometimes people get confused by, because you're kind of talking to database in both of those areas. But that's not necessarily true, because in this case, imagine as if you're showing this specific information to stakeholders, to a manager, and whenever they're looking at the result, they don't really care how you got it there. They don't really care that it's talking to a database or not. They want to see if the data that they're seeing, the user will be seeing, is relevant to them, if it's their data that they need to see. This is solve pretty much a business use case. Type number 6, acceptance test. And acceptance test is when developers have finished developing the software and it's almost production ready. And what happens at the last stage of development is that it's been given to QA people, business people, managers, stakeholders, to a big group of people. And it's been tested by them with multiple use cases that they have in mind to make sure that it does solve regular users, the users' needs to use the software. And if something doesn't match, if something fails, if one of the use cases didn't solve specific problem, no matter how big, how tiny it is, then it's going to fail. But if everything looks good, then it's going to go into production, into the user's hands. Type number 7, performance test. And performance test is exactly what it sounds like. You're testing out the performance of your application, how well it can support your concurrent users. So let's say what we do is first we'll create 100 concurrent users. We'll be sending them to a specific endpoint, and we'll see how our system operates. How long does it take to process? How long does it take to get a response from the application to the user? Then we'll try out with 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, and so on, so on, so on. We'll keep on increasing the number to see how well it can operate. And of course, you can do that exact same thing on the server, not just locally, but on your server, your staging development server. But the one key thing in here, that type of process is very expensive, because right now you can see that you have to run your entire application. Well, you don't have to run your entire application, because you can make it very, very specific to a specific service, to a specific microservice, and you just go from there. Now, those are the 7 types of software testing when it comes to developing an application. And we usually do some of them first before developing an application, like when it comes to unit testing. And by the way, if you're new to software development, if you're just starting out, I do have a video on if you should become a front-end or back-end developer. I'll leave the links in the description below for you to check it out. And if you got value out of this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.